Welcome, beautiful people, to Petrify the Patriarchy. I'm your guide, Jo B. If you're ready to unearth the subtle ways patriarchal culture has shaped your world and uncover the hidden power within your own shadow, you're in the right place. Here we don't just speak truth to power, we wield it, turning stagnant energies to stone so that your authentic, liberated self can truly flourish. Let the unlearning begin. Hello all, welcome back to Petrify the Patriarchy. I am going to talk about my story. This is part 3 now. So as not to overwhelm you with all the information, but it is kind of a, couple 2-3 years at the very least, that I went through the shit that I went through that has helped shape me and allowed me to land where I've landed as a new business owner, as a podcaster, as a children's book writer, maybe more writing, I don't know. And definitely researching patriarchal culture, which we'll be diving into, once I've gotten done with my story. And then I've got a couple other topics that I really want to center the work that I'm doing here with you on. And yeah, so to continue on with my story, I left off with having fallen into a really, really deep depression, and I was having suicidal thoughts at this point. Now, the whole incident around sexual harassment, again, I'm not going to go into any of the details I've already spoken about, but if you want to go back to my story, there's part 1 and part 2. Go ahead and listen to those, and that's what I've been experiencing up to this point. And as a side note, as my teacher coach job, I, at this point, had, almost 2 full years under my belt in this position, and my title was coach, but 2 years into it, I hadn't actually coached anybody, and I hadn't actually coached anybody because there were a lot of reasons. The district really didn't think this position through, number 1, and number 2, I had a principal and an assistant principal. My principal was on the verge of retirement, and my assistant principal was brand new to the position and was basically taking up all the slack. And there was a lot of it because the other principal was like, oh, I'm out, right? So it was kind of a weird dynamic. I ended up doing a lot of administrative work, particularly anything having to do with testing. Now, complete side note, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail around it, but I do not believe in standardized testing in the way that we're utilizing standardized testing. I call it child abuse, and it has absolutely no bearing in anything other than having to report to the state and the federal government in order to get money. So it's based in capitalism. It's not actually based in anything else. And I could talk about it for years and years. I'm not going to. I specifically stayed in 2nd grade as an educator for most of my career because I refused to teach testing grades. Testing grades start at 3rd grade, and you're tested almost every year until you graduate high school. I refused to participate in that, and now all of a sudden, that's all I'm doing. I'm in a windowless room pretty much 24/7 testing endlessly. It's not just one test. It's a series of all kinds of tests. We have our district tests. We have the state exams. We have tests for multilingual students. We have tests for whether or not students can be accepted into the highly capable programs. You name it. I sat in a room and tested kids pretty much every single day. I had a reprieve from about November until December when we went on break, and I had a little bit of a reprieve at the beginning-ish of April for a couple of weeks. And then when we come back from spring break, all of it starts up again, and that's all I did for the rest of the school year. And it killed my soul. My administrator knew this. My assistant administrator knew this. They knew I hated everything about it, and they didn't do anything to stop it. In fact, oh, that's just her job. She'll do it. It wasn't. It wasn't in my job description. It was supposed to be the assistant principal's job, and it got put onto me, quote unquote, other job duties as assigned. So between hating my job now and not actually doing anything that I really thought I was going to be able to do to create systemic change in a building, I wasn't doing it. I wasn't actually coaching anybody. I'm also dealing with the immense emotional drain is not even the word I want to think about. It doesn't even match. The immense emotional iceberg that's laying on top of me, having dealt with this person for so long, and then deciding to do the right thing, and only to be met with what I'm met with. We don't believe you. It's unfounded. And the adults who said, we want you to do all these things, never following through. And then the social component of being an outcast, right? All of that weighed tons. And I was struggling. So I went back to work for 1 week, got all of my documents in order, and I told everybody. I even sent an email. I need to take care of myself. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. Just to try to work on my emotional side. And I left. I took off. I slept for the entirety of 1 week. I got up to let the dogs outside and feed them, and I got up to pee. I couldn't do anything but sleep. Sleep was the only reprieve I had from the existence I was in. And that first week, that's all I did. By that Friday, I finally was like, okay, I think I can get up. I think I feel like I can attempt to take care of some things. I think I'm ready to tackle a little bit of the world. And I didn't really know what that looked like. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or how I was going to do it. But I got up and I did chores. I think I mopped the floor and probably did the dishes. Like, that's all I could really manage, but I did it. I also, for years, have gone to a counselor, and my counseling appointments have always been on Friday, right after work, and I drove myself to my counselor's office, and right as I'm pulling in to the parking lot of my counselor's office, my phone starts ping, 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 ping. Just one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. Just a barrage of texts. And it was my assistant, my assistant principal, who was also my friend. She and I had been friends for about 15 years. I got to know her as a guest teacher, as a substitute for her when she was, first a teacher way back in the day. I subbed for her, and then eventually began working in the building that she also worked in. And so we just, because I worked with her and I had been a guest teacher for her, it just was kind of a natural, like, cool, right? Like I got somebody in the building. Um, and you know, she moved buildings over the years, and then she went back to school and got her administrative degree, and then she landed in this position. And I was really excited when I got the job because she and I had done a ton of work together, committee work together outside of the school day, and we had a lot of similar interests around social justice and that sort of thing. So I was really excited for, you know, that aspect of the job too. I've got this built-in friend who is also the administrator. Like, we're going to be able to do some serious kick-ass shit. Only that's not what happened. And I ended up doing jobs I never wanted to do. And we butted heads a few times because no, that's not my job. And I just kind of acquiesced when it came to the testing because I fought really hard on a couple of other things and got my way there. So the testing thing was fine. Like, just fucking fine. And I hated every minute of it. And she knew that. She knew I hated it. But it didn't stop her from changing. And it definitely, you know, she was like, great, do it. Because then it takes stuff off my plate, right? So I pull into my counselor's office and my phone goes off. And so before I walk in for my appointment, I start reading these text messages. And they're from her. And it was, you abandoned me. Your timing was intentional because it was testing season. You need to go find a new job. Or not. You can come back to the building, but I don't think anybody wants you here anyway. Like, really awful shit. It's the first day I felt like getting out of bed. It's the first day that I felt like I could, you know, start to kind of tackle some of the emotionality that I was disassociating from. And those series of text messages just sent me to shut off mode again. I mean, it was great timing because I was going into my counseling appointment, so I was able to, this just happened. I'm on HR approved leave. It was highly illegal for her to have reached out in that capacity anyway. Had she been coming at it from a friend perspective, it would have just been, I've been thinking about you, I hope you're okay, right? Like, there's a clear delineation between don't come back to work, go ahead and find a new job, and, hey, how you doing? I'm worried about you. Everything made sense in that moment. I knew why I had been hired for that position. She knew that she could utilize me in ways that would support her, right? I am the epitome of kind and considerate and giving and people-pleasing, like all the things that white supremacy patriarchal culture tells women to be. I'm that. That's probably why I became a teacher too, right? Like, she knew she could take advantage of that, and because she probably also recognized that boundaries are hard for me. And so she figured, cool, let's hire her. I can walk all over her and I'll make her do things that I don't want to do. That's how I read everything in an instant. So I go into my counseling session and explain what just happened. And I decided right then and there, I'm done with this person. I am never speaking to them again. I had also done the math and knew that I had 7 weeks sick leave, and that's exactly how much time we had left in school. So I just kept extending my sick leave. I needed it, number one, and number two, it was toxic when I left based on the situation I'd found myself in. I wanted to not be here. I wanted to kill myself. And now it's toxic because the situation I found myself in terms of doing the right thing, and then socially speaking, being met with that patriarchal pushback, now I'm quietly being slut shamed. And the pressures around, not having appealed the decision and feeling like I'd failed myself. And now I'm also being met with a toxic friend / administrator who had taken advantage of me for the last nearly 2 years. I had a lot I needed to deal with. And so those 7 weeks were not easy weeks. They weren't easy at all. There was a lot of healing that I needed to do, and I needed to try to find some sort of grip somewhere. I, at this point, reached out to my union, and I had a conversation with one of our lead people at the building, and I was counseled that there were several ways that this could be dealt with. I could file a formal grievance against my administrator. I could I could not file a formal grievance. I could just have union people go in and speak to her and let her know that everything she did was A, illegal, and B, what the fuck, right? Or C, do nothing. And I could also request to be reallocated. And so I did a lot of thinking on what I wanted to do. And again, I opted not to make things difficult for her by filing this grievance. And I asked for the union to go in and speak to her. Now, I don't know if this ever happened or not. I never got any follow-up. I have no idea. But I asked for that to happen. I suspect nothing happened, is what I suspect. And I also requested reallocation. So this is roughly the beginning to mid-May at this point. And by the middle of May in my district is when jobs are starting to be posted for the next year. And so I was expecting jobs to come in, middle of May to the beginning of June kind of situation. And I'm hearing things through the grapevine, and I'm hearing this is a thing. Let me know if it's a thing. I'd be interested in this. So, the union people knew that I wanted to be reallocated. I was consistently messaging saying, hey, I hear this is a thing. This is a position I'd be interested in, blah, 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 right? By the middle of June, nothing has come my way. And I decided to call HR and say, hey, I was told that I was going to be reallocated based on these situations, but I have not had a single job come my way. What is going on? HR was like, we didn't get any paperwork on this. I still want to cry when I think about, the next thing, right? The universe just keeps punching me in the face saying, wake up. I had to deal with sexual harassment. I had to deal with the district saying, it's not a thing. I had to deal with my administrator abusing me when I was in a super vulnerable state. And now the union has failed me by not filing the fucking paperwork. I had been with this district for I think 17, 18 years total. I was fucking irate. I know how to deal with the situation. I immediately went to a neighboring district, put my application in, and within 24 hours had a job interview scheduled and was ready, was okay, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to my district. All of these things, one on top of the other, 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 were just one more patriarchal piece of bullshit, right? Now, because I'm experiencing a mental health crisis, because the system is refusing to recognize the harm that it's done, I'm now considering harming myself. And I'm met with, well, you must be weak. You must not be able to handle shit. You must be super fragile. You must be handled with care. You must need us to walk on eggshells kind of bullshit, right? In the patriarchal system, vulnerability, especially emotional vulnerability, is seen as such a huge deficit that it's something to be exploited, or you're punished for it rather than supported. And every single one of those aspects that I had been through now for the last 2 years was all of that. One after the other after the other. I must be broken. I must be weak. I must be sickly. I must be fill in the blank, right? My struggle was a direct result of the system's failures. Their own practice and policy, their own belief systems, their own inability to not handle people with care. It was more abuse. It was abuse upon abuse upon abuse. It was bullshit. And it confirmed that in their eyes, acknowledging a mental health challenge is not a valid reason for needing support, taking time off, being cared for by your fucking friend, but it's an opening for further control and degradation. And it's a direct attack on my value, on my worth as a human being. I knew I couldn't stay in that district. My spirit was screaming for liberation. I needed to be done. I had spent so many years working so fucking hard to make this place a better space for my scholars and for those that are marginalized in terms of skin color, in terms of religion, in terms of LGBTQIA+, right? Like, I have spent so much time and energy focusing on others and supporting others in this district when I needed it. I got none of it. And I'm a fucking white lady, right? Like, so I had an opportunity to be interviewed in a neighboring district, and I was handed the job on the spot, which is not how things work in education. There is a process you have to follow, and they don't give you the job on the spot, but I got the job on the spot. So I walked from the district that I'd spent 17, 18 years in. Almost immediately, patriarchy found a way to manifest itself. I spent all summer arguing with my old district, trying to let me out of my contract because there are dates, like hard dates, where they won't let you out. Even though I was a solitary position, I didn't actually directly work with students. It should have been an easy, yeah, we'll let you go. But they didn't. I fought all summer. So not only has my winter break not been a break, My midwinter break was not a break. My spring break was not a break. And the 7 weeks that I took off, where I used all of my sick leave, was not a break. I was trying to heal myself from trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, right? All of those things. And now they know I've complained to no end about the situation I've been in, and they're not going to let me go? Are you kidding me? All summer. So I called the union again, because if it's the one thing I know about the union, my local chapter in my old district, they love to argue. They love a good fight. So I called them up and I said, hey, they're not letting me out of my contract. What do I do? You better believe that because they like to argue, they marched into the district office and said, let her go. Let her go. And I was let go. So I could sign a contract in a neighboring district. And in doing so, instead of allowing me any kind of prep time to mentally prep myself and to physically prep myself by getting into the building and start setting up my classroom, it went from 0 to 900,000 miles an hour. I went from, I think I'm going to have to stay in this shitty job in a shitty building with shitty administration who abused me in a building where nobody really wanted me now anyway, because, you know, scarlet letter bullshit, to 24 hours later, you're out. And I was in a new district and now I had to go to orientation. Like, it was immediate. I had no time to process that transition. So full speed ahead. I'm setting up a classroom. I'm going to orientations. I'm doing all the new hire stuff. I'm blah, blah, blah. All that. And I've got maybe, I don't remember, I think it was 10 days to 2 weeks to get myself ready for students. And if you know me, you know I need my prep time and I like to do things methodically with a lot of intention. And I didn't get that time. So I did not feel prepared. I didn't get a chance to look at any curriculum. I didn't get a chance to get to know any of the systems or the technology. The technology didn't work for me for days. It was so problematic. And 3 days before school started, or 3 days before the kids came to school, my new principal stopped into my classroom and asked if I was going to the social event that they had scheduled Friday. And I just casually said, no, I've got my counseling appointment. Thank you, though. Just casual. And that was enough to tip the boat. Because within less than a week, they had dug up the fact that I had taken time off in my previous district for mental health purposes. And I'm being called into the principal's office to be coached, but was told I'm a hurt person hurting people. And it took me a long time to really come to grips with what I dealt with. I'd been gaslit really hard, number one, in terms of what was talked about in the interview and the expectations around all the things that we talked about, only to then immediately have that rug pulled out from under me and never given any time to focus on anything remotely classroom-based, remotely behavior-based, remotely, none of it. I wasn't able to dive into any of it. And after about a month, not even, probably 2 weeks, I was making calls to my new local union. I'm like, something's up. I don't know what's up. I can't quite put my finger on it, but this is not how I should be feeling, because now I'm having anxiety attacks 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. I can't eat, I can't sleep. And I'm failing miserably. For the first time ever, I'm failing miserably as an educator. And I have been a classroom teacher for nearly 20 years. I was getting called into the principal's office for coaching, quote unquote, once a week. And I was told 2 weeks in, if you don't want a bad evaluation, you should consider leaving. And if that's something you choose, I need 2 weeks notice. Something a principal should never say. I'm, unionized. You cannot say that shit. You cannot say that shit. And she did. She said, okay, cool. Just go. So now I'm making phone calls to my union and I'm like, this is what's being said. I need out. I need out. I didn't know what that was going to look like at the time. I started packing my stuff. I'm not even a month into school and I started packing my stuff and taking it home. I'm waiting every day. I'm waiting to hear from the union to go, okay, you're out. What I really needed, I still needed a job. I still needed that steady paycheck. I needed time to get my stuff figured out. But the district was pushing back. The school was pushing back. Everybody was pushing back. So I worked as long as humanly possible. I hated every second of it. I hated waking up. I hated my day. I hated everything that had turned into anything in regard to my existence as an educator, which is something I had loved for so many years. So I had paperwork filled out and I went on an emergency paid leave, packed up the rest of my shit. I left sub-plans for 2 days and walked out. Didn't say anything to the principal. My teammates knew, but principal didn't know. That was the manifestation of discrimination, right? It was nearly immediate from just a casual conversation. It was a direct attack. I'd been nothing but attacked for the last 2 years, and now I'm getting a direct attack that I'm somehow fucking fragile, that I'm not capable, even though, yes, I'm in a fragile state now. Thank you for putting me there. But this is the fresh start that I needed, and you're not giving me the opportunity to do what I know how to do. And it solidified that patriarchal belief that if you've ever shown a crack in your armor, if you've ever needed support for your mental well-being, you are inherently less capable, less reliable, less valuable. Your worth is conditional on an impossible, emotionless perfection. And these experiences, all strung together, were my personal crucible. I'm my own fucking Medusa statue now. I'm frozen. I'm absolutely frozen. I don't know how I'm supposed to chip away to find movement, to be able to breathe. And this led me to walk away from the institution of public education, period. I finished out my year as a guest teacher in PE for a number of weeks, and then music for a number of weeks, neither of which I'm good at or have an aptitude for, right? But I finished out the year. I did things I didn't love doing. I knew I was not going to be able to thrive within a system that's so deeply entrenched in its own patriarchal beliefs. That dismissal of my sexual harassment complaint that was protected by 20-year-old policies, right? That prioritized the institution and male power over safety and truth. The patriarchal belief around weakness and mental health, which punishes people for being vulnerable instead of supporting and healing. And the insidious gender bias that allows men to inflict harm with minimal consequence. And women are shamed, silenced, and dismissed. Everything I dealt with, the unspoken rule that no matter how badly a man treats a woman, it's still okay-ish because she wasn't actually raped or beaten. This is where Medusa's echo rings the loudest for me, that silencing gaze. So this wasn't just about me. My experience became a microcosm of the larger patriarchal system that I talk about here on this podcast. And it's the crux of the work that I've been doing for the last year plus some months. And it solidified my understanding that true equity work is shadow work. It is shadow work. It means confronting the uncomfortable truths, not just in society, but in the wounds they leave within us. And it's why I'm so passionate about helping you identify and name and ultimately petrify the harmful patterns within your own life and the systems you encounter. So my journey from those battles led me to discover the profound power of unlearning, of truly facing my own shadows and reconnecting with the ancient strength of the divine feminine and the transformative power of ritual. So that's where I find myself. And that's why I find myself doing what I'm doing now. It's been a journey. I'm fully on the other side of self-harm. It's still not easy, right? Like, money is tight. Money is very tight. I've got to be very, very careful right now. And that's not a stress I enjoy. But it's such a minor stress in comparison to the shit I have dealt with for 3-ish years now. So, that's my story. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next time, but please subscribe if you haven't already. Please share if you find this valuable or you want somebody to hear something that resonates. And until next time, Joe B, signing off.